their beautiful brains look at things differently. And it is our job to support
Mhm.
that and bring out the best of that, not
Yeah.
to hinder it, not to lock it away in the closet, not to, beat it down to submission where they have to conform this way. That's not what it's about. It's about really helping them grow into the beautiful person that they are.
Welcome back to Mother's Guide Through Autism. I'm Brigitte Shipman, and I am very excited about our guest today. I'm going to be speaking with Gina Kavali, and Gina and I connected with a common project on a book that we are each a part of, along with about 28 other parents, and we share our stories about our experience with our children on the autism spectrum in this book. And our kids share their perspective as well. And the name of that book is Superheroes on the Spectrum, which I'm sure you have hopefully heard of. So if you would like to get a copy of that, it's available on Amazon. So that's how we connected. But Gina is also a syndicated radio personality and host of Life with the Spectrum on YouTube. Gina is also a proud mother to an 11-year-old son, Lyric, who is on the spectrum and the inspiration for everything she does now. Gina is based in Atlanta, Georgia, and she is the co-founder in Atlanta's first premier speed dating event for young adults on the spectrum called Table Talk. It was just featured on season 2 of Love on the Spectrum on Netflix. In addition to her show on YouTube, her syndicated radio program that airs daily across the country, Gina also hosts a daily entertainment podcast called 3 Things You Need to Know, and is a keynote speaker at events near and far. Gina doesn't get much downtime, but when she does, she loves to travel with her family and go to concerts with her friends. So excited to talk to Gina today. Enjoy this episode. Welcome back to Mother's Guide Through Autism. I'm Brigitte, and today we're going to be talking to this lovely lady that I met through Superheroes on the Spectrum. And Gina Kavali is here, and we were chit-chatting, and I got so absorbed in what Gina was talking to me about that I didn't hit the record button. So we had the most awesome conversation before I hit record. But don't worry, because I have a feeling that during this episode, there's going to be a wonderful conversation. And I also want to say that I felt an instant connection to Gina. So welcome to Mother's Guide Through Autism, Gina.
Thank you so much, Brigitte, for having me on. What a great thing that you do, that we're both doing, trying to really make a difference in the world of ASD for sure.
Yeah, so when we were visiting just a few minutes ago, we were talking about our passions, and I want to get back to that because it is so evident, because we were both getting goosebumps and everything in our conversation about how passionate we both are on our journeys with our kids, both of our sons. So I want to start though, like just backing up a little bit, and then we're going to head to the passion, which I'm sure it's just going to be the whole interview. But let's begin with your personal journey with autism. Like, just give us a little bit of background about how you got here.
Yeah, I mean, and folks who want to grab that Superheroes on the Spectrum book, I'm in Lyric and I are in chapter 15. I think you're chapter 29, right, Bridget?
Yes. Yeah.
It's a great read. Lyric, we at 1 years old, we found out that, he wasn't meeting certain milestones, and we kind of noticed that some things were off. So we went and we had a series of tests done that kind of ruled out cerebral palsy, this, that, and the other. And the doctor at the time, and I just loved her, Dr. Bagnall, she's out in Colorado Springs. If you have a chance and you live there, go to her. She's awesome. She said, listen, I can't really diagnose this just yet because it's too early, but I feel like Lyric's going to be put on the spectrum, autism spectrum disorder. So I said, okay. And that was a hard pill, right? Like knowing, and then immediately you're going home and you're getting early intervention, and there's things and balls moving at you in hyperspeed, right? And so we did earlier intervention. And I have to tell you, if it wasn't for that, I don't think Lyric would be as far advanced as he is today. And so the minute you feel like something's going on with your kid, you go to the doctor and you talk to him, you start to rule out things. And now they can diagnose children as early as one with autism spectrum disorder based on an eye gaze study that the Marcus Institute put out. So it's really important to just prepare yourself with as much knowledge. Although sometimes you feel like you're getting it in droves and you don't know how to weed out certain things.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think the most common things, because you're looking at a child at one. So yeah, the whole process
High tone, low tone.
yeah.
Lyric still looks you in the eye. So he doesn't have that particular I guess symptom, if you would call it that, of autism. But definitely the high tone, the low tone. He was an early or a late crawler, a late walker. He didn't cut teeth till very late. He was also a very quiet baby. He didn't cry a whole lot. Not
Mhm.
saying that these are indicative signs of your child or anyone else's child. These were signs for Lyric.
Yeah.
And so going through those tests and getting certain things taken off the potential list, it ended up making it very easy at 3 and 4 years old to go get an early diagnosis of autism and then also start the therapies that we needed: speech and language, PT, OT, all of those things. And then eventually moving into ABA therapy, which is kind of still controversial to this
Yeah.
day. But
Mhm.
ABA therapists are also looking at things differently because they see that it's been controversial.
Yeah.
So they know that they need to kind of change things up a little bit in that particular type of therapy to meet the demands of the parents and the kids and what they want to see for their children too. So
Yeah, I think that's an important thing to bring up. I know, I always say back in the day, but Joseph, we didn't have ABA when
right.
he was in those therapies, so um I don't have the personal experience with it. So I think it's good that moms that have that we, share the therapies that work, didn't work. And, I again going back to superheroes on the spectrum, in your chapter, I know you talk about, the not every you meet one autistic person, you meet an autistic person, right?
Right.
And also I loved, and I wrote it down, Temple Grandin, because you and I were talking about this, about how unique each of our kids are. They have similarities and being on the spectrum, but they are their own person. So that brings me, I want to talk about the YouTube channel. We started visiting about it. We were both so excited that I want to hear all about life with the spectrum.
So kind of going back to why we started this, and I think many parents watching and listening to this podcast will kind of just mirror us. Like, right, we needed to pivot ourselves and what we're doing to something that makes more sense for the life that we live with the children that we live, right? And so my husband and I were having our anniversary dinner and we were discussing, like, Gina, what do you do outside of radio? You've done this for 30 years and I'm going to keep doing radio. Probably I'll die with a microphone in my hand, Brigitte. Rest assured. But I wanted to do something more meaningful for Lyric and also learn as much knowledge as I can from people around me making a difference in the world of ASD and really all disabilities, because the show is disability friendly. And so we came up with Life with the Spectrum, and we launched it on YouTube. And we have talked to organizations, foundations, doctors like Dr. Lageson out in LA who started the Peers program. This is a perfect program for schools. I wish all schools would send someone out to get Peers trained so that they could bring it back, because even neurotypical kids could stand to learn from the Peers model. I've had Temple Grandin on herself. She's quite lovely. And then just a whole slew of people have come onto the show, not just to share their journey while I've had self advocates on, but also some of the incredible work that parents like you and I are doing, like Lori Unum from the Unum Neurodevelopmental Center in South Carolina. She not only has that, but now she's creating a whole community for young adults to live at. We have one growing up right here in Forsyth County, up the road from where I live. So there's a lot of people making a difference. And I believe everyone deserves a spotlight on that. And
Mhm.
that's why we do the show. And so it's not just on YouTube, but now it's also available as a podcast, and it's just growing. And I think it's because of the Netflix thing and the fact that I was on Netflix. It's like, woo. So, people are wanting to check it out. And they're also reaching out about how they can be on the show, and what's happening in their communities is very important. It's not, autism isn't just here in Atlanta. Like, the show has traveled as, far south as South Africa.
Yeah.
And I had Lerato Musadami on the show, who started, because she has 3 children on the spectrum, Bridget. She started Afri Autism magazine.
Wow.
And now that goes to all kinds of countries within Africa. And the resources there, while limited, they're starting to grow. And it's because of people like Lerato making a difference. So
Right.
the more we can put out there, the more information and sharing, I think it's just really key right now. It's really, really crucial.
Yeah, I love, and again, when we started this, I said the passion would shine through, and it obviously is. Some of the work too, building communities. There is such an emotional aspect because I coach moms who have kids on the autism spectrum, and I'm a life coach, so I work with them in helping them take care of themselves, right? I tell my story. I did not do a good job. I'm saying that, coming clean.
Oh,
So now paying it forward, I can just feel, the grief part of it that happens. So
yeah.
what was your initial reaction to your diagnosis with Lyric?
I cried.
Yeah.
And sometimes I still do. I think it is the hardest pill to swallow when you know something's potentially wrong, is wrong, could go wrong. And then I don't think it's a pill you ever truly do swallow. I think you take it in little chunks. And as your child ages, you take another chunk down. And you know what I mean? It's like, it's just it's one of those things that, you know, I wouldn't wish this on anyone, but you're dealt the cards you're dealt with. And so you need to know how to best prepare yourself so that you can raise a productive child who's happy, right? That's, I think, what we really want is our kids to be happy, whatever that looks like for your child. And so we need to be armed with as much information, because they always say it's like the old adage, knowledge is power. So if you have that, then you can take little chunks more often of that pill. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And I remind them the first thing I always say is you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Just let's just take a breath. Yes, it's daunting. Yes, it's overwhelming and stressful, but that's why I love having conversations with people like you because we're doing our thing just like you said. We pivot. There's so many moms that end up doing such powerful work because of a diagnosis. So I think it's just making the world honestly a better place as awareness grows and we start accepting the differences, right?
And it certainly helps our kids navigate through this world, because as we can, and we help to make and gain acceptance through
Yeah.
employers,
Yeah.
through the government, and the services and all of the different layers to that onion. Then our kids who turn into young adults
Yeah.
are can navigate a little bit more safely and a little bit more like they would if they were neurotypical. They had everything at their hands and their disposal like they should. And I don't think that that was the case even as early as 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I think every year we continue to grow and change, and we have to get these wait lists under control, Bridget. I don't know if you have a problem there in Arkansas, but we have a huge problem of that here in Georgia and across the country. People looking for benefits, they can't get, direct support providers to come into the home for the more profound kids that need it and young adults. And it's really a problem. So it takes people like you and I who are out there pushing and lobbying and putting out these messages to make it happen.
Right. When we were chatting earlier, we were talking a little bit about, the work you and I are doing and the educational system and the changes that we see are desperately needed within. Although inclusion is at least a word now that most people know, but I don't, the work that I'm interested in too is changing the workforce and also education. And I know that you're doing it, in a way, getting the awareness out and showing people that our kids are just kids. They're kids, and their brains. You were when you and I were talking earlier, I wanted to bring this back up about the individuality and the brains, and you were talking about
You
getting out.
you put us in an escape room, Bridget.
Right, right.
You and I are in an escape room. We're
Yeah,
neurotypical, and we're
yeah,
going to think very differently on how to get out of that escape room. Same thing applies to our neurodiverse. You put them
yeah.
in the escape room, all of them are going to be thinking very differently on how to get out of it too. So it just goes to show you not one mind thinks alike. And when it comes to education, I think some states shine a little bit more than others with early education. I think some states have a long ways to go. I
Yes.
think it takes people like you and I in those individual states that need a little bit more help than others to push the needle. But for Lyric, his education, he's always been very bright,
Yeah.
very on grade level. He was going to public school, and the rubber was hitting the road a little bit. The rigor, at least where we live, is extremely intense because it's all about really the test scores, because then that gets the county more money, and the more money, the routine. Anyway, so we decided it was a good time to move him into a school that is specifically for children with ADHD, autism, any learning differences. And it's a top 50 school in the country.
Wow.
I was shocked it was right here in our backyard. And I was like,
That's
well, we have
great.
to send him there. So yeah, we pay for it. But what I've noticed, and not all families can do this, okay? And I get it. But what I noticed with Lyric is how he kind of came out of this shell that I didn't even know he was in. You know, like my husband and I were like, whoa, he's doing this and he's doing that. And these are things that, our kids on the block are doing. And he wasn't doing those before, even though he was in like a inclusive classroom. He was in general ed, and he may have had some special supports with paras in the room at one time or another. It took us going to a school that can teach to him the way he learns. And so that's an important thing because, and I know parents who are watching this or listening to this understand that the way we talk to one child is maybe not the same way we need to talk to another one. And it's the same thing with education. One child is not going to learn those ABCs like another child learns those ABCs. And so finding those teachers and finding those professionals that deal specifically with that, I mean, that's a game changer. And so Lyric is on track. He's on track to drive a car. He's on track to go to college if he so chooses. I hope he does, because, we really want him to. But that college might look different. It might be a trade school. It might be a university. All of these schools now, Georgia Tech, the University of Georgia, where you live in Arkansas, state-run colleges all have great programs for the neurodiverse, and they get special supports. And through those special supports, and I've had a lot of them on my show, they also have social opportunities. And that's the biggest thing. So it's not the education at the end of the day, your kid's going to graduate. Okay. Whatever that looks like, your kid's going and he's going to get through school. She's going to get through school, but it's the social opportunities after school. What do those look like, and what can they look like? And so it's good to know that some of these schools are offering both support with your education, but then also support getting you out in the community, getting you out amongst your peers, because other than that, it becomes very isolating. Being an adult on the spectrum can be very isolating. You go to work, if you're lucky enough to have a job and keep that job, gainful employment's a big thing. But then also, like, well, where do you go after work? Like, you don't want to just stay on your Switch or your, game. You need to go out and be amongst your peers. And that's why we started Table Talk here in Atlanta. So I don't know.
Tell us about that. Like our listeners, anybody watching this YouTube channel as well, just the sound Table Talk sounds inviting, because I love conversation. So what is Table Talk? Tell us about it.
So I guess I got to go back to go forward. I was interviewing my partner in crime, Claire Dees, and she runs this autism support group here in Gwinnett County, close in here in the metro, let's just say. And Spectrum Autism Support Group, for what it's worth, is probably the largest in the Southeast, and it's headquartered right here. My friend Claire, I was interviewing her, and we just were like you and I, Brigitte, we're in step, right? And so we said, we really want to create a social opportunity for young adults on the spectrum who are looking to mix, mingle, maybe make a meaningful friendship, or possibly find love. Because guess what? People on the spectrum want to date. Maybe they're not there yet. Maybe they're not, but they're going to get there, and they're going to want to feel that love from someone other than their parents and their siblings, right? So we created Table Talk, and every month we host one around the metro. And it was just seen on season 2 of Netflix's Love on the Spectrum. I'm hashtag Gina speed dating. That's what they call me in the show.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so because of that, people have been reaching out across the country as to where and how can they bring Table Talk, because it works. It's not just about that initial connection. The social building that it does helps people communicate and get in and out of conversations in 5 minutes or less. Mm-hmm. This is a huge skill that you and I take for granted, and someone on the spectrum may have a little bit more difficulty doing. They don't know when to shut up. They want to talk all about themselves, but you can't do that, right? So this event helps on so many different levels with social communication building, and then also finding those friendships or possibly dates. I have to tell you some success stories here. One of the first Table Talk events, which was filmed by Netflix, a couple of the participants, and I'm not talking about Connor and Emily, but a couple of them are dating, and they have now been for over a year. That makes my heart smile.
Goosebumps again.
Right. Then I have parents reaching out to me going, you don't understand. Like, I've never seen my son so happy. They're going to Dave and Buster's as a group. Or, hey, then from participants, hey, I met up with XYZ at Top Golf and we had such a fun time. So I'm not only making friends with these participants and the parents, but to see the growth. I've watched Sasha, who is on Netflix. She was one of the girls that Connor dated. I've seen her from the show when she started coming to Table Talk to where she is now. That young lady is more confident. She walks into a room, people are looking at her. She is a completely different, like, butterfly that just came out of this shell. And I love that. And I promise you, it has a lot to do with these Table Talk events. So I'm very proud of them. I know Claire, I speak for Claire when I say that too. And we're just going to keep the good times rolling every month. In fact, so much so, these are so great, Brigitte, that my son Lyric, who's only 11, has now started hosting Table Talk Junior events.
Yeah, when I heard that, I was just like, that to me is it's just like it how I mean his self-esteem has had to have boomed since he started his own YouTube channel. Like tell us about it. Like I bet he's just blooming. Like
Okay, so you don't have to be on the spectrum or a neurotypical kid to know that YouTube is where it's at, right?
yeah.
Everybody wants to be a YouTube star. And so our kids are like, they're watching these other YouTube stars like Mr. Beast and things like that. Hashtag find me, Mr. Beast. Anyway, they're finding that these are a great outlet for them to be creative and also to make new friends too. So Lyric started doing a YouTube channel. His is at Lyrical Gamester, and he does fun challenges like I guess, the bamboozle challenge with the jelly bellies, and he does different things like that. And because he's watched his mom and dad grow up in entertainment, he is also a little bit of a ham and a natural entertainer. We had him on the mic at 3 years old, right? Doing little
Yeah.
commercials for radio stations around the country. And so, and he still does commercials. He does commercials during my YouTube show. The kid's on he's funny. So, so Lyric saw mommy doing these table talk events for adults. And I was telling him how moms are wanting social events and opportunities for their teenagers. And he
Mhm.
said, well, why don't we do a table talk junior? But I want to host.
You
So
yeah.
I said, okay. So guess who's getting paid now?
I
Lyric.
I love it.
And I was like, Lyric, can mommy have some money? And he's like, no. And I'm like, okay. So it all goes into his savings account. And we just had our first Table Talk Junior event, and that was a swimming success. So now we'll start moving those around the metro, and possibly bring it to wherever your viewers and listeners are. Because it's really, I can't describe the model that we came up with, Claire and I, but because we're autism moms, we
Mhm.
just know what the deficits were, and I guess our own children, and then speaking with other parents, that when we created this model, we nailed it.
Yeah, that's good to know. So so you can help any area, anywhere, set up the same success stories with Table Talk. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
And then it'll be your favorite day of the month too. It is
I
truly
know.
my favorite day of the month. We just started something and we haven't even had it yet. So a little inside skinny. We noticed with Table Talk for adults, some of the girls are a little shy, and also some of the girls are still struggling with their identity. So, what we are going to do here is start a Table Talk Girls Day Out. It's going to look a little bit different than our typical table talks for adults and juniors. It is going to be more like a round table, but we're excited. We're going to have it at La Madeleine in Duluth, and we're inviting 16 young ladies who want to make new friends and have to, you know, work on those social building skills. And so we're excited. That one's coming up a little later in March.
Well, we'll be looking for it for sure. I would love to know if you could give your best advice to our listeners as a mother with a child on the spectrum. What would that advice be?
Breathe, calm down, breathe, and know that your child is fine
Yeah,
and everything's going to be fine.
yeah,
And the most important thing is to not overreact. Um, you know, things that are happening in the moment. It's like this too shall pass kind of thing.
yeah, yeah,
And you have to remember that. And then, like, for example, you have a 31-year-old, I have an 11-year-old. I'm going through pre-puberty right now all over again, right? And you forget when you're our age what puberty looked like or sounded like or acted like, and the assassin and the back talk back and all that good stuff. So while things and people are very different, they all are very much the same. So
true.
to try not to overreact and just breathe through it, and remember that their beautiful brains look at things differently, and it is our job to support
Mhm.
that and bring out the best of that. not
Yeah.
to hinder it, not to lock it away in the closet, not to, beat it down to submission where they have to conform this way. That's not what it's about. It's about really helping them grow into the beautiful person that they are, because truly they are. They're autistic people are quite lovely. I
Mhm.
know I live with one, and every day I learn something new. Every day I am forced to look at something differently. And that is, I can truly appreciate that. So I don't know who did who a favor here. If God did me a favor giving me lyric, or lyric did, he did me giving lyric to me. It's really a symbiotic relationship that I'm learning every day in my journey of living life with the spectrum.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I'm concurring with everything you just said. For sure. I've often said Joseph has been my best life teacher.
Yep.
Um, his profound one-liners are just too like he makes me just come way down like, oh, okay.
Isn't
All
it
right.
something?
Got
Yeah.
it. Just like
Well,
boom.
you got to tell me, what can I expect during this puberty thing, Bridget? Because like you've been there, done that. Like I'm just getting started in it.
With my son, he like your typical teenager, he was very interested in dating. So I can't tell you how wonderful it is what you're doing for our teenagers and young adults and anybody who wants to learn how to socialize when you don't know how. So let me just say that first of all. I bought him, Joseph always responded really well with social stories and examples. If I could walk him through something,
Right.
he had to experience it before he really truly understood it. So,
Okay.
and then he wanted his independence, right? So instead of doing things with me, I bought him a book and he wanted to work through the social skills book and how to have conversations on his own. So I gave him the space. I think that was the hardest thing for me was learning how much space do I give him because I don't want him to get hurt, because he doesn't understand because he did go to public school the the teasing, the bullying, he just
It's
he didn't get it.
oblivious. Yeah.
Right. And to be quite frank, he was bored with most of the conversations with his peers.
Yeah.
He would rather hang out with me and my friends, to have that conversation because he's just like, woo, way up here. So my best advice during those teenage years is no different than what you've been doing.
Okay.
It's taking it to because you can't see what's coming. I wish I could like say, okay, this is going to happen. Exactly what you and I have been talking about this whole time is
Right.
each of our kids struggle differently. They're all different, but they all need help. They don't understand. There's no map to socialize when you don't know how to socialize. And think of us. I was a social butterfly and there were struggles for me, so it's letting them learn the lessons they need to learn, but knowing when to pull them in when enough is enough.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
good advice. I'll take it because
Well,
there's also that delay factor too for our
right.
folks on the spectrum. So,
Mhm.
you could be, let's just say 20, but operating still at 15. Or,
Exactly.
there's a kid on the street that is a teenager, like 16 years old, but more operates like at a 12-year-old mentality. So there's that too going on, but yet your body is reacting like a 30-year-old man now. So it's like, oh gosh, I'm in for it.
It's true. It's true. But you know what? Just like with the potty training,
Oh, that was a
though,
nightmare.
yeah, okay. So you get through that, right? And
Right.
then okay, you will get through the teenage years too. And I would have to say, not to, this was my experience. I think post high school was a little even more challenging
Yeah.
because it's like, now what? Now, so that whole transition, young adult transition that everybody goes through, um, is a little bit different for our kids too. And they just need the guidance without, you got to give them the space.
Yeah, for sure.
Is there anything else you want to mention before we go? I could talk to you all day, honestly. It's
I
just,
know. I just think it's important, I think, as parents, especially first getting a diagnosis, um, that something that's been brought up to my attention. I don't know if anybody's ever talked about this on your podcast before, um, but family members don't always understand what you're having to digest, and they
yeah,
don't always understand how to approach your child. And sometimes that can cause a lot of difficulties with relationships for grandparents or aunts and uncles and things like that because they don't understand, they don't necessarily get it. So I think that that's a really important thing, that you can give them as many tools to
mhm,
use towards your children as possible. Now, that didn't really apply in my family, but I've spoken to other families that say it's really difficult. My mom doesn't even talk to my son anymore. Like she just doesn't know how. And so she chooses not to. And that breaks my heart because that's really like, come on, that's your grandkid. Well, why would you do that? But oftentimes it's because people just don't understand. And so as much information that you can arm yourself with is going to be so key. And even if you think you forgot it, it'll come back around. And then to try to surround yourself with other parents that are going through something similar. Not every parent is easy to get along with, and not every parent may seem like you or me, but it takes a whole bunch of different people to make this world go round. And so to try to find that common ground when scheduling play dates. And that was always so hard, Bridget, right? Like now Lyric's kind of past that in
right.
some respect, but like, your kid might not be the first picked to join the team. Your kid might not be invited to the birthday party because they're different and your kid acts out, or maybe your kid self hits himself, or your kid does this. I mean, there's a million different reasons. So to try to find some common ground with the parents and help them accept, then they
Yeah.
will teach that acceptance onto their children, which helps just pave the way for a little bit of a better, happier future for kids on the spectrum.
Yeah, I'm just like exactly. I mean, I agree with all that and how important everything is that you just stated for anyone who's listening out there, because how we feel about it definitely reflects how they feel about themselves.
Absolutely. You have to embrace it. I had a mom ask me, Bridget, and this was just recently, she's like, does Lyric know he's on the spectrum? I'm like, well, hell yeah, he knows he's on the spectrum. I have a show on YouTube. He does like he goes to a school. Like, why would you keep that from your child? And she was like, well, how did you tell him? And I said, and I took one from the superheroes book. I started thinking about it. I said, you know, you you have to tell your child that they are different, but that's not a disadvantage. It's an advantage to look at people and the world and everything in it differently.
Mhm.
You grab things that mommy and daddy will never see, and you pick up on it just like that. And then we might pick up on things that you don't pick up on, and it's our job to help you see those things, little innuendos, that gray area that autistic people just never kind of get. They're either black or white and never in between. It's our job to help you kind of see a little bit of that gray so that you can better prepare yourself when on a job interview later down the line, or taking a test or doing some other things that you're going to do when you're older. So it's really important that you let your kids know, because our kids are resilient. All kids are resilient, but kids on the spectrum are definitely resilient. And the more information you give them, the better off they are. And our kids are different. Sometimes talking to Lyric is like talking to an adult. The way
Yes.
the way he, and he's 11. And then sometimes he's a regular 11-year-old. He likes to play Fortnite. He likes to play Roblox. And then other times you can speak to him as if you were speaking to an adult. He's just that eloquent, or his minds and his thoughts are right there along with ours. So it's very different. And I think everybody deserves to know who they are and the pieces of them that make up who they are. And being on the spectrum is just one little, very little piece of this great, beautiful puzzle that makes up all of us, right?
I agree. I agree. I was always forthcoming with Joseph as well, because like you said, knowledge is power, awareness is powerful, and teaching people how, hey, I wouldn't be the person I am today without my son Joseph teaching me to accept differences at the level that I have,
Right.
So I think it's our job, with our kids and also with the world to just say, it is, it's the bomb to be different,
Yes.
accept it because, hey, we all have our quirks, man. I do too.
And we live in a society that at least allows that. When we traveled to South Africa to talk to Loretta Musadami, who started that Afri Autism magazine, she was telling me about the culture there and how and you can watch that show. It's wonderful. I just love her. I feel like her and I are kindred too. You would love her too, Bridget. And
I'm
and
ready to
she,
meet her.
and she talks about how, like, men in South Africa, if they have a child with any disability, much less autism, that they just up and leave you. They up and leave their partner with however many kids you have, because their culture there is to have the woman bear children that will be productive citizens and real go-getters and changing, their economic, socioeconomic pathway, so to speak. So when she told me this, I was like, well, okay, you have three on the spectrum. Where's your husband? She goes, well, I met my husband when I was, studying in England. So it was very different because she meets ladies and moms all the time. And then you rely on your soul family members, your mom, your grandma. And that's why so many people live together in South Africa, is because it's generational and they're just trying to get by because they were left. Like, it's so interesting to see the different cultures and the African American community, the Hispanic community. Autism is everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So, while it's really prevalent, let's say in the white community, it's just as prevalent in African American and Hispanic communities. And yet the voices aren't being quite as heard, which is why we're starting to see groups like Mocha Matters stand up, rise up, take ownership of their cultural, background, and really say, hey, listen, we have Black people on the spectrum too, and we need to get them educated. We need to get them swimming. We need to get them this, and this. And so it's really wonderful to see different cultures, different communities across the world coming together for the benefit of their children, and just being a force for good. You're a force for good. I mean, I love sitting with you today, Bridget.
Well, it's my honor. I mean, the thing that I love the most about this interview is what I said at the very beginning. I mean, right off the bat, you have
I
so much passion. You're just like,
I thought you were rolling tape. You guys miss, literally, if you're listening or watching right now, you miss like 30 minutes of the best stuff. I mean, like, we need to go back.
I know, but I was so into me like really connecting with you and all this stuff. I was like, oh yeah, by the way, I have to hit the record button. So anyway, I feel like the passion continued though. And it's just been wonderful. And honestly, I would love to have you back. And we can talk about.
That's a big no until you come on my show.
Oh, snap. Okay, deal. Y'all
So
heard it. Everybody just heard it. It would be an honor to
We're going to set something up for sure, Bridget, because I think what you're doing there in Arkansas and what you're about to do in Arkansas is a big game changer. And people need to know about that, especially viewers in Arkansas. Like they need to know, like, hey, this is going to be a resource here. Yes. I won't give it away, though. I'm not going to say nothing.
Well, we'll talk about it when I come visit you. But yeah, things are rolling here. And I love the work you're doing. I can't wait to see what you do when I come visit my son, Jacob in Atlanta. We will definitely get together. So before I hit the record button again, I do want people to know where they can find you. I know your YouTube channel, and we'll put this all out when we release this, but where can they find you?
So I have a website. It's gcast.com. It's GKASTS.com. That's where you can learn a little bit more about table talk events. Also see some of the YouTube episodes. Of course, you can go to YouTube and find Life with the Spectrum and subscribe, but you can find like the latest episodes. You can find a little bit about any other jobs that I have, because I feel like Jennifer Lopez in that one movie that's got a million part-time jobs. That's what I do. And so gcast.com, and you can always find me on socials too. I have a Life with the Spectrum Facebook page. I have, Gina Kavali on all socials, and on X, it's at Gina Marie FM, and Instagram. And so I'm all over the map. You just Google Gina Kavali and be surprised. Bridget, have you ever Googled yourself?
Yes.
So it's like 6 in one, half a dozen in the other. I loved seeing everything until all of a sudden I saw somebody else's face and I was like, that's not me.
That's right. That's right. I did. I Googled because I don't know. Somebody challenged me to that and I go, really? Ew. Okay. And so I did. And yes, there are other people with our names.
With your name. But like this girl, she didn't even have my name. It was a girl. I can't even remember her name, but I was like, well, that's not me. And that doesn't even look like me. And what's her name again? And so it was kind of funny. So for all the viewers and listeners, you should probably take the time to Google yourself. That's my best advice.
Self-discovery work.
What you find.
Yeah. We're talking about self-discovery here. Who are you? What do you want to know about yourself? Oh, that could be another show. And also, I do want to mention that our stories are in Superheroes on the Spectrum. I reread your chapter because I love your chapter. And so those of you that are not aware of Superheroes on the Spectrum, it's available on Amazon. We're going to check out your YouTube channel, and we're going to keep up with your son Lyric and all the great stuff he's doing. And you'll be back to Mother's Guide Through Autism.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Bridget. I appreciate it.
My honor. All right. If you enjoyed this interview, I would love it if you would help Joseph and I spread knowledge, hope, and inspiration by liking this episode and also subscribing to our YouTube channel. I'll see you in the next episode.